Hello, welcome to the lesson on 8th grade math practice, where we'll review the relationship between the subsets of the real number system. So let's go ahead and begin. So here I have a list of terms of the real number system that we'll go over orally before diving right into the lesson. And starting with natural numbers, well, those are numbers that are 1, 2, 3, etc. So think of them as your counting numbers, as if you're counting numbers on your hands. And then we have the whole numbers. So these include all of the natural numbers, including 0. And then we move on to integers, which are whole numbers plus their opposites. Rational numbers, these can't be written as a ratio or a fraction. The decimals terminate or repeat. So I have this fraction 3/4 as an example, which as a decimal is 0.75. And notice 0.75 terminates, okay, or it ends. And then we have 0.3 repeating. So this is an example of a repeating decimal, and its fractional form is 1/3. Then we have irrational numbers. So decimals never end and they never repeat. So examples of this are pi and the square root of 2. Let's take a look at the word subset. Specifically, let's take a look at the prefix sub. So I like to think of this as below. And another example I like to look at is subway. And I know that subways are underground trains. Okay, so what is subset? What does the word subset mean? Well, it's a specific group within a set. So let's take a look at the natural numbers here. So natural numbers are a subset of whole numbers. So this means that whole numbers contain all of the natural numbers plus 0, okay? Which is why natural numbers are a subset. And notice that the natural numbers are below the whole numbers, okay? Let's look at the words contained in. So this is everything that is a subset of the larger group. So let's take a look at the whole numbers. Now, whole numbers are completely contained in the integers. So that is to say that integers contain all of the whole numbers plus their opposites. All right, so let's go ahead and begin by going over the first question here. Question number 1 asks, which of the following does not contain the number 46? All right, so let's think about what the number 46 is. And I know we have this keyword not. So what is the number 46 though? So is it an integer? Well, if we take a look, it is an integer because integers contain whole numbers plus their opposites. So this is not the correct choice. What about natural numbers? Well, 46 is a natural number, right? Because it contains all of the counting numbers, 1, 2, 3, etc. So this is not the correct choice. What about whole number? Is 46 a whole number? Well, it is a whole number because remember, whole numbers contain the number 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And last but not least, is it an irrational number? Well, 46 is not an irrational number, so that means that irrational numbers do not contain the number 46. So answer choice D is the correct choice here. So let's move on to question number 2. So for question number 2 is asking us which of the following is not a rational number. So we have this word not here, and we have this key word rational, okay? And notice we have ratio within rational, okay? So let's take a look here. So let's find out which numbers here can be written as ratios, and then we'll get our correct answer as far as which one is not a rational number, okay? So starting with A, we have negative 0.125, and you're probably aware that this is equivalent to negative 1/8. So this is a ratio. So answer choice A is out. 0 can be written as a ratio. Remember, 0 over 1 is the same as 0. So this is the incorrect answer choice. Let's simplify the square root of 49. So remember, you're just multiplying some number by itself to equal 49, which is equal to 7. 7 can be written as a ratio, specifically 7 over 1. So that's incorrect. And then finally, we have the square root of 13. And square root of 13 cannot be written as a ratio or a fraction. So this is the correct answer choice. So let's move on to question number 3 here. All right, so this is asking us what subset of the real number system is completely contained in the whole numbers. All right, so we have subset and we have whole numbers. All right, so let's take a look at the whole numbers here. So it's asking what subset of the real number system is completely contained in the whole numbers. So think of what this is asking you. So the subset, and like I said, the key word or prefix is sub, which means below, right? So which subset is below whole numbers? And that is natural numbers. So that means that the natural numbers is the subset of the real number system, which is contained in the whole numbers. So that is answer choice B. Okay, so let's move on to question number 4. Okay, so the set of whole numbers is not a subset of. All right, so let's take a look here. So we have this keyword not, okay? Not a subset of. All right, so let's think about it this way. Whole numbers are a subset of integers, rational numbers, of course, real numbers, right? So let's eliminate answer choices right off the bat. So we know that rational numbers are a subset, so that's not answering the question of as far as the set of whole numbers is not a subset of, right? So let's eliminate answer choice A. Let's eliminate answer choice C because we know that whole numbers are a subset of integers. And we know that whole numbers are a subset of real numbers. So let's eliminate choice D. So that means the only answer that's left here is irrational numbers. And that is the case, right? Because as you can see here, we have irrational numbers over here. And whole numbers is definitely not a subset of irrational numbers. So let's move on to question number 5. So for question number 5 is asking which number in this list is not an integer. Okay, so we have not an integer. Okay, so let's go ahead and run through this list and simplify, okay? So starting with A, the square root of 9 is 3. So this is not answering the question. And we have 0, which is considered an integer, right? So this is not answering the question. What about 1/6? So we see here that the numerator's number is less than the denominator's number. So that means when you divide, you're going to get some kind of decimal answer. So it's less than 1. So that means this is the correct answer choice. However, for peace of mind, let's take a look at answer choice D. We have 40 over 8, and we can simplify this, and that's simply 40 divided by 8, which is 5. And 5 is considered an integer, okay? So that means C is the answer choice here. And let's go over to question number 6. For question number 6 is asking which number is an irrational number. So we have the square root of 2. And so the square root of 2 when simplified is 1.41421, etc. So that means that this is the correct answer choice. But let's move on. What about answer choice B? So is 30 considered an irrational number? Well, no, because it's a whole number, it's a natural number, integer, as well as a rational number, right? It's all of those choices. It's definitely not irrational, so that's incorrect. What about 677? That's also rational for the same reasons that the number 30 is. So this is incorrect. 0.25. Well, this is a decimal number that actually terminates or ends, and its equivalent is 1/4. So this is not considered an irrational number. So this is not answering the question. All right, so answer choice A is the correct choice here. So let's move on to number 7. Okay, so number 7, which of the following sets of numbers contain the number 1/5? Okay, so we have these sets of numbers here. So we have natural numbers. So let's begin with natural numbers. Is 1/5 a natural number? Well, look at your diagram. Do natural numbers consist of ratios or fractions? No. So that's out of the question. What about, and I'll just put an X here. What about whole number? Is 1/5 a whole number? Take a look here. It's not a whole number because whole numbers do not contain fractions. What about irrational? Is 1/5 an irrational number? Well, think about it. 1/5, think of in terms of money, 1/5 of a dollar. So 1/5 of a dollar is equal to 20 cents. So essentially this can be written as 0.20 or 0.2. 0.2. So this actually written as a decimal actually terminates or it ends. Okay, so this is not considered an irrational number. What about real number? Well, fractions are definitely real numbers, right? So this is a real number. Is 1/5 an integer? Take a look. Integers do not contain any decimals or fractions. So 1/5 is certainly not an integer. And what about a rational number? Is 1/5 a rational number? Taking a look. It is a ratio or it's a fraction. So this is the correct choice as well. So that means that 1/5 is a real number as well as a rational number. Is a real number, rational number, as well as, and I meant to put an X here, it's not an integer. Sorry about that. So it's real number and a rational number. All right, so let's move on to, and I believe the last one is question number 8. All right, for number 8, we need to identify each classification of the real number system that can describe the set of numbers shown. So we have 75%, 5, the negative square root of 400, and 1/4. So I like to go about this by simplifying these numbers here. So let's go ahead and do that. So we have 75% that when converted to a decimal is 0.75, which terminates. And then we have 5, which can also be written as a ratio, 5/1. We have the negative square root of 400, which when simplified is negative 20. And last but not least, we have 1/4, which is 0.25, or that its equivalency is 0.25. All right, so simplifying these actually helps us too. So let's take a look. 0.75, is that considered a natural number? No, so we're not going to place 75% there. Is 0.75 considered a real number? It is, so we'll place 75% here. Okay. Let's see, is it a rational number? Can it be written as a ratio? Sure, 75 hundredths or 75/100. So this is certainly a rational number, so we'll place 75% here. Okay, and what about an integer? Well, remember, integers do not contain decimals, so we'll leave this blank. Is it a whole number? No, we'll leave that blank because remember, whole numbers do not contain decimals. And then, is it an irrational number? Well, no, because it terminates, okay? So let's move on to the number 5. Well, 5 is certainly a rational number, so we'll place 5 here. And is it a real number? Sure, it's a real number, so we'll place 5 here as well. Is it rational? It is, because like I've said, it can be written as a fraction, 5/1. So we'll place 5 here as well. Is it an integer? Well, yes, it is an integer, because remember, integers contain whole numbers plus their opposites. Is it a whole number? Yes, it is a whole number, so we'll place 5 here as well. Is it irrational? It is not irrational, so we'll leave that blank. Let's move on to the negative square root of 400, which when simplified is negative 20. So is negative 20 a natural number? It's not. Is it a real number? Yes. So we'll place negative square root of 400 here. Okay. Is it a rational number? Well, yes, when simplified, negative 20/1. So yes. So we'll place negative square root of 400 here as well. All right. What about an integer? So is negative 20 an integer? That is correct. So we'll place the negative square root of 400 here. Because remember, integers contain whole numbers plus their opposites. Okay. So what about a whole number? Is it a whole number? No, because whole numbers consist of 0, 1, 2, 3, and all positive numbers upward to infinity. Okay. So it's not a whole number. What about an irrational number? It is not an irrational number. So last but not least, let's move on to 1/4 or 1/4. So I've simplified it to 0.25 to help us out. So is 0.25 a natural number? It's not. And if you take a look at its original form, 1/4 is certainly not a natural number, because natural numbers do not contain decimal numbers or fractions. So we'll leave that blank. It is a real number. So we'll place 1/4 here. All right, is 1/4 a rational number? It is. So we'll place 1/4 here. And I put parentheses here to separate this from the negative square root of 400. And then, is 1/4 an integer? No, integers are not integers do not contain ratios or fractions, right? So that's not. An integer is 1/4 a whole number. It is not, for the same reasons it's not an integer. Whole numbers do not contain fractions or decimals. Is it an irrational number? Well, it's not an irrational number. So here we have it. Hopefully this lesson was helpful to you, and I look forward to working with you in an upcoming lesson. Take care.